Have you ever stopped to wonder how completely invisible assets actually drive our modern information economy? We're so used to thinking of wealth in physical terms, right? Factories, land, gold reserves. But today, the ultimate engines of value are entirely intangible. We're talking about thoughts, ideas, and the legal protections wrapped around them. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to really unpack why intellectual property matters and exactly how it shapes the products we use and the media we consume every single day.
Think about this for a second. What makes a secret soda recipe, a smartphone screen, and a cartoon mouse worth billions of dollars? It's a pretty fascinating puzzle when you dig into it, because without the right legal frameworks, literally anyone could just copy the recipe for your favorite drink or rip off the tech in your phone. The crucial takeaway here is that a company's absolute most valuable assets today are often completely intangible. Honestly, the difference between a billion-dollar empire and a total flop of a startup usually comes down to how well they lock down their ideas. So here's our roadmap for This Explainer. First, we'll look at the intangible economy. Then, we'll dive into trade secrets with Coca-Cola. Third, patents, focusing on Apple. Fourth, copyrights and trademarks through the lens of Disney. And finally, number 5, the true value of ideas.
Section 1. The Intangible Economy, Rise of the Idea Market. Over the last century or so, we've witnessed a massive shift, moving away from purely physical, industrial economies into these modern, knowledge-driven markets, where frankly, ideas rule the day.
To really understand this economy, we need to nail down a clear definition. Intellectual property, or IP, refers to intangible assets that are legally protected from unauthorized outside use. Essentially, this is the legal bedrock. It's what allows creators and huge corporations to take a mere thought and turn it into protected economic value. If you invent a life-saving drug, write a blockbuster script, or code a revolutionary algorithm, IP law is exactly what ensures you can actually profit from your hard work without someone else just immediately stealing it.
You can think of intellectual property as this 4-part corporate toolkit. First up, you have trade secrets. These protect confidential company information indefinitely. Well, as long as you can actually keep a secret. Second are patents. These grant you a 20-year window of exclusivity, but the catch is you have to show the public exactly how your invention works. Third, copyrights. These protect original creative works, but only for a limited time. And finally, trademarks. These protect brand identifiers, things like names and logos, and they can last forever, provided you just keep renewing them. Section 2. Trade Secrets. Coca-Cola, the power of secrecy. Let's see how this actually plays out in the real world by looking at the ultimate fortress of corporate secrecy. So transport yourself back to 1886. Coca-Cola was facing a massive choice. They had this incredibly unique syrup formula, known internally as Merchandise 7X. Now, if they patented it, they would get a rock-solid legal monopoly, but they'd also have to publish the exact recipe for the whole world to see. And after 20 years, anyone could legally make it. So instead, they opted for trade secret protection. This completely avoids public disclosure and gives them indefinite protection. It literally never expires, as long as the secret doesn't leak out. It's super cost-effective, and since the formula is so complex, it effectively stops competitors from just reverse engineering it. But as you can imagine, keeping a secret for well over a century requires some serious James Bond-level security. Coca-Cola relies on extreme multi-layered defenses here. First off, knowledge of the complete formula is strictly limited to just a tiny handful of executives. Second, they enforce ironclad non-disclosure agreements and non-compete clauses. And third, the physical security is absolutely legendary. After sitting in a standard bank vault for 86 years, in 2011, they moved the formula to a highly secure, custom-built vault at the World of Coca-Cola in Atlanta. And honestly, that is exactly how you maintain a permanent competitive advantage.
Section 3. Patents. Apple, a defensive fortress. From the absolute secrecy of Coca-Cola, we're pivoting to the exact opposite strategy, total disclosure.
This is the ultimate intellectual property trade-off. Trade secrets demand total secrecy, but can last indefinitely. Patents, on the other hand, require you to publicly disclose your invention. You are literally handing your rivals a blueprint. So why on earth would a company like Apple ever do that? Well, because in exchange, the government grants you a 20-year legal monopoly. See, in the fast-paced tech world, where hardware gets disassembled and reverse-engineered in a matter of days, keeping a secret is practically impossible. So Apple fully embraces patents.
They don't just patent a phone, they patent the exact curvature of the design, the user interface, the swipe-to-unlock feature, the biometric security, the whole shebang. This creates a massive defensive fortress against any market encroachment.
It heavily amplifies the cost of entry for competitors who now have to spend an absolute fortune just checking if they're stepping on Apple's toes, or they have to invent entirely new workarounds. By filing early, Apple secures the rights to emerging tech, giving them incredible leverage in strategic partnerships and allowing them to literally shape how the whole industry evolves.
Section 4. Copyrights and Trademarks. Disney's IP Battle. So, what happens when a company's heavily guarded IP has a ticking expiration clock? Let's dive into Disney's existential crisis.
Disney's entire empire was built on characters, kicking off with a certain mouse back in 1928. But here's the thing, copyrights do not last forever. Under the 1909 law, protection maxed out at just 56 years. Seeing their earliest and most valuable works creeping toward that expiration date, Disney and other corporations heavily lobbied Congress. This directly led to the 1976 Copyright Act, which extended protection. Then, the 1998 Copyright Term Extension Act pushed corporate works out to a massive 95 years. Some critics actually dubbed this the Mickey Mouse Protection Act. But look, even 95 years eventually runs out, leading us directly to a very pivotal date, January 1, 2024.
On that exact date, the 1928 black and white version of Mickey Mouse from the short Steamboat Willie officially entered the public domain. That means anyone can now use that specific version of the character freely, without paying Disney a single dime. But, and this is a huge but, the crucial point here is that Disney still holds the copyrights to all the later versions. Like that famous 1929 version with the white gloves, still fully protected. You absolutely cannot just go use modern Mickey.
Furthermore, Disney has an incredibly powerful backup plan up their sleeve: trademarks. See, when a copyright expires, that specific work enters the public domain, and you lose exclusive control over it. But trademark protection applies to brand identifiers like specific names and logos, and that can last indefinitely, as long as it's renewed every 10 years. So sure, you might be able to draw the 1928 Steamboat Willie Mouse now, but if you try to sell a toy and slap the name Mickey Mouse on the box, Disney's trademark lawyers are going to come knocking very quickly. They use trademarks to protect the broader identity of their brands forever.
Section 5. The true value of ideas. Valuing IP assets. We've seen exactly how companies legally protect these assets. But how do businesses actually calculate the staggering monetary worth of these completely intangible things?
Well, valuing IP is a pretty complex science, and financial analysts generally use three primary models to pinpoint that exact dollar amount. First is the discounted cash flow method, which estimates all the future income an asset, say a newly patented drug, will generate before it expires. Next is the relief from royalty method. This one basically asks, hey, if we didn't own this trademark, how much would we have to pay someone else to license it? That saved money becomes the asset's recognized value. And finally, the market comparison method, which simply looks at established marketplaces to see what similar patents or brands are currently selling for.
To really grasp the massive financial stakes of getting this right or terribly wrong, just consider this number for a second: $900 million. Back in 1985, a court found that Kodak had actually infringed on Polaroid's instant camera patents. Kodak wasn't just told to nicely stop making the cameras. No, they were ordered to pay Polaroid over $900 million in damages. When you infringe on a carefully valued piece of intellectual property, the financial consequences can be absolutely devastating.
Which brings us to a really insightful quote from our sources. Intellectual property valuation has become a strategic deliberation and financial accounting. Let that sink in. Managing IP is no longer just this boring legal chore left to the lawyers down in the basement. It is the very core of modern corporate wealth and strategy. Whether it's locking a secret formula in a physical vault, building a massive defensive wall of patents, or meticulously renewing your trademarks every decade, IP strategy is business strategy.
And that leaves us with a pretty provocative final question to consider. As more iconic characters like Winnie the Pooh and Steamboat Willie enter the public domain, and as technology continues to rapidly shift way faster than our laws can even keep up, how will tomorrow's creators balance protecting their billion-dollar ideas with sharing them with the rest of the world? The tension between secrecy, exclusivity, and public progress is honestly only going to grow from here. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep your eyes open for the invisible assets shaping our world.